Hello beautiful people! Welcome to episode 3 of To All the Projects I've Done Before Valentine's Day / Lunar New Year edition. Therefore, the non-edible decor and the edible decor and a jolly spirit. Today we're going to indulge in this season of love and talk about love, beauty, fashion, passion, and we're actually going to talk about someone awesome who was born on February the 14th, 231 years ago. So get your drinks ready for this birthday party! Yay! Before we move on, I want to briefly share about how gender and sex are going to be discussed in this video. The content today references primary or secondary sources dealing with the social and historical context of the 18th to 19th century Europe, which gender and sex were addressed very differently from today. Also, while I use words like women, female, lady, girl, etc. in this video, in part because of the historical context we're talking about today, I think gender is a beautiful spectrum, and not all women have periods, and you don't need to have periods or certain body parts or dress a certain way to be a woman. In this video, I'll also be sharing my personal experiences as a cis woman of Asian descent. So the project I'm sharing today is a video actually. It was what I did for this class, Museum Interpretation Practices in 2020, taught by Professor Sarah Gans-Blythe. So every week we'd go to the RISD Museum and we have discussions in the seminar room, in the galleries, until, well, the plague, and this was one of my favorite classes. Now go click the link up there and watch the video A Landscape of Her Own, which I also have the link in the description below. So pause this video, go watch that, just come back here after you finish watching that video. Welcome back! What a life she had, right? I mean, and this was all in the early 19th century. Yes, her name is quite long, so let's say it together, shall we? Louise Josephine Sarzan de Beaumont. For all the French speakers, pardon us here, we're just trying to help people remember a human who is so badass and actually helped change the world but never made it to our textbooks. Sarzan de Beaumont's journey to a successful art career wasn't really documented, and we don't even have a portrait or a photo of what she looked like. Actually, I've never heard of her until I took this class, and when I saw the artist's name and title, and I just have to know more. A quick view of what we know. Sarzan de Beaumont submitted to her first Paris Salon in 1812 when she was only 22. She is a go-getter from the beginning, and she actually won several medals from the Salon as well. She never married, had no kids, and traveled extensively throughout Europe, in France, in Germany, in Italy, and likely many other places as well. And remember, this was the time that women were actually not allowed to travel solo, but she did anyway because she is the boss, and she had exceptional business skills and sold many paintings and donated several of her paintings to museums so more people could know about her. Now it's the year 2021, yet there are still countless existing stereotypes, outdated expectations, biases based on gender, sexuality, race, country of origin, and beyond. And some topics are still not openly talked about enough in a healthy fashion in our education, like periods. I'm really curious about how Sarzan de Beaumont dealt with her period, if she had one, when wearing those 19th century dresses and going out and about, in mountains, across rivers, trying to do landscape paintings. And you are also curious, right? Personally, I really feel that her story is one full of love, beauty, and passion. Her story always reminds me that the most loving and happy relationship I should always remember to strive for is the one with myself. And hopefully this video gives you what you need for today. As we're all living in this era of the plague, oh, do we miss traveling? How about let's time travel back to 19th century France through the footsteps of Louise Josephine Sarzan de Beaumont. Born in 1790 in the midst of the French Revolution, which I'm not so sure how much baby Sarzan de Beaumont actually experienced, so let's skip to her young adulthood. Though it's hard to pinpoint the exact year where she started learning painting, we could guess it's likely in her late teens and early 20s, because her first mentor, Pierre-Henri de Valenciennes, went on to teach in the School of Fine Arts in Paris in 1812 and therefore left her. Not only was academic art training not available to women in the 19th century, establishing a career as a professional artist was not a walk in the park. And the young Sarzan de Beaumont aspired to be a landscape painter. And to be a good one, you have to be out there in the outdoors, to observe and to sharpen your craft. And during the 1810s, when she was in her 20s, these were what she had to wear most likely. And as she embarked on more travels in the 1820s, she'd likely be wearing outfits like these. So we're making a brief stop at dress history right here in our time travel. Why, you ask, other than I love it. And of course, it's not because of that misogynistic view that women need to look pretty, therefore they only want to talk about clothes. Nope. The reason I bring up dress history is because it gives you a peek into how life was like back then and how labor was performed and so on. Actually, our modern day idea of being fashionable was quite different from that back then. Taking Sarasota Bemon's time as an example, in those times, being fashionable means that you fit in and you are considered acceptable in a society. What you wear and how you do your hair shows your social class and your profession. Dressing edgy or dressing vintage in extremely outdated clothes wasn't a trend and you might become a social pariah. Dress history is absolutely fascinating and I highly recommend you check out videos from Carolina aka our meme mom and Bernadette Banner and Abby Cox, and you'll see me referencing some of their work in my video today. So by going through Sarasota Bemon's wardrobe, as you could see, those dresses were not exactly designed for the outdoors. Although I really want to point out that corsets and stays are not those murderous, torturing garments as portrayed stereotypically in some period dramas and movies. They were functional and supportive undergarments that helped create that historic silhouette for that era. And they are worn with chemises, not directly on your bare skin. Looking at you, Bridgerton. In fact, corsets and stays offer pretty good back support for those who need to sit or stand for a really long time, like our Sarasota Bemon who had to be out there standing doing paintings for a long time. But overall, yes, conventional women's dress in the early 19th century was not made for occasions when you have to go hike a mountain, go tread through thorny bushes, and walking past through muddy patches to get that perfect scene for a painting. And then, how did she deal with periods? Even with all the modern day sanitary products we have, sometimes periods are still a hassle. What are some possible ways that Sarasota Bemon handled it? Back in those times, undergarments were quite different from what we have today. Women wear drawers that have an open crotch, so she'd likely be wearing something like a period apron as shown in Abby's video, or use a piece of cloth attached to a belt, or this T-shaped belt diaper looking thing as shown in Carolina's video. I highly recommend you go watch the full video on their channel. Their videos are insightful, fun, delightful, and just basically what I aspire to bring to my channel. So Sarasota Bemon likely found ways that worked for her, and as she traveled extensively through Europe, and she painted some of the most magnificent scenes of nature. Which is amazing, yet what was it like for women to travel in the early 19th century? There were many restrictions for women to be out in public spaces, let alone traveling unescorted. Marie Bashkirtseff, a fellow 19th century female artist, wrote the following in her journal. "What I long for is the freedom of going about alone, of coming and going, of sitting in the seats of the Tuileries, and especially in the Luxembourg, of stopping and looking at the artistic shops, of entering churches and museums, of walking about the old streets at night. That's what I long for. And that's the freedom without which one cannot become a real artist." On top of such lack of freedom, academic art training and nude models were not available to women until much later in the 19th century. So many women turned to painting still life and portraiture, things that could be done indoors. So it's not because they were super fond of flowers, tables, chairs, kitchenware, and stuff, and not because they are incapable of depicting human anatomy or sublime nature. So, next time when you hear someone say,
"Look, women were just mostly painting flowers, chairs, kitchens, and stuff, so they're just naturally inferior to men,"
you know they are missing some facts, very crucial facts, and you can show them this. Furthermore, women travelers were advised to wear something that is not vulgar. So Sarasota Bemon probably didn't wear those trousers that would allow her to move more freely but were strictly considered menswear only. Or maybe she tried. Like Rosa Bonheur, one of my favorite artists, born a bit later in the 1820s, she rejected then contemporary gender roles and she cut her hair really short and requested a special permit from the police department to wear menswear so she could go unnoticed in the male-dominated horse fairs, stockyards, and slaughterhouses to study animal anatomy. So iconic. In the early 19th century, women were still expected to become wives and mothers. In some times of the year, probably it feels like it hasn't changed that much considering how family members enjoy interrogating kids during Lunar New Year gatherings. 啊，你什么时候要结婚啊？什么时候要生小孩啊？啊，那个你月薪多少？ And I just feel and I wanted to show them this. Indeed, women were starting to gain more visibility in the 19th century, and actually there were quite a few women submitting their works to Paris salons. However, their opportunities were still significantly less than their male counterparts. And most of all, their stories seldom make it to our textbooks and were lesser known in the world. So learning about someone who navigated and prevailed in a society that wasn't built for her and led a life filled with passion and adventures. It's just so exciting. And if I ever made it to a 73 questions with Vogue and they asked me if you could have dinner with anyone living or dead, who would it be? Louise Josephine Sarrazin de Beaumont would be on my list. I feel that her story is sort of a epitome of one could and needs to have a good relationship with oneself, you know, to love yourself, believe in yourself, and give your passion a go despite how insurmountable challenges ahead of you might look. I just picture throughout her life, Sarrazin de Beaumont probably met so many people who were trying to block her way and telling her to think otherwise, do otherwise, and the climate of the society she was in wasn't the most encouraging and welcoming for a woman who, based on known documentation, or the lack thereof, never married, never had kids, built her own career, and was financially independent. And as I'm currently watching Gentleman Jack, a biographical story of the fascinating Anne Lister, seriously, go look her up, she is so cool. It just dawned on me that Anne Lister and Sarrazin de Beaumont, they lived in the same era. And wouldn't that be so cool if Sarrazin de Beaumont had kept a journal of her life and we get to know more about this exceptional, badass human? Or maybe some controversial things she had done. We don't know. We're all humans and no one's perfect. I just feel really inspired by Sarrazin de Beaumont's story. And I feel like this could be inspiring for anyone, honestly. You know, she pursued her passion and built a life she wanted for herself. And to do that, one has to have a very good and healthy and loving relationship with oneself. You know, she's her own Valentine. I feel like when it comes to relationships, most people only think about external romantic relationships. And well, don't get me wrong, having a partner that you love is great and go for it if that's what you want in your life. It's just that the nourishing, loving relationship that everyone needs to have and needs to strive for and to look for is the one with yourself, and it's the foundation of your life. As someone who has her fair share of heartbreaks, I feel really deeply that when you feel whole yourself, when you love and appreciate yourself, instead of searching that missing piece from another human being, everything will fall into place. And vulnerability is a good thing. It's a healthy thing, actually. Sometimes you might feel that you are all alone, and there definitely will be dark chapters in this book of life that you're currently writing. But hey, you are the author, and you are full of love and wonder, and you deserve all the things that are meaningful for you in your life. I often imagine what was going through Sarrazin de Beaumont's mind when she was painting this A View of Paris from the Louvre, from the Apollo Gallery in the Louvre, and especially being lucky enough to have visited the Louvre myself 2 years ago. It's just a spellbinding feeling that this painting, this artist, this human being who truly lived 231 years ago found me via this class that I took at Brown. This class was wonderful and full of love, and it introduced me to a lifelong friend whom I'll think of on February the 14th every year. If you watched till this far, thank you so much. And I've actually got a Valentine's Day / Lunar New Year gift for you, or should I say a gift that's for you, from you. Today, go do something kind for yourself. Do something that you love, something that you enjoy but you haven't done for a while. You know, go pick up that pen, pick up that camera, pick up that racket, and go dance, go play. Find a way to document this lovely day that you gifted to yourself. And perhaps do this every day, no matter how mundane or insignificant that you think this is, because it is not. You never know, maybe some years or some centuries later, people would find your work, your writing, your photos, your art, and feel inspired and loved. And they might make movies out of it, you never know. Feel free to share in the comments below what you did on this lovely day. This is a rather long video, but still, it doesn't capture the full scale of the history, context that were mentioned, and for sure there's space for improvements. But I had a lot of fun making it, and I also had a lot of tabs open for references for this video, and I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me here today. Feel free to subscribe and follow me on Instagram if you feel like it. Stay safe and love and appreciate yourself. Happy Valentine's Day and 新年快乐! Happy Lunar New Year! I'll see you again very soon. Bye! Day / lunar human that truly lived 2000 a mummy? What?
I just finally accessed the paper that I'm trying so hard to access, and now it's finally allowing me to read it. I'm just so happy.
I just what? Erebor, and we're gonna for all the French speakers, pardon us here, ours. Not only we're academic, referencing some of the videos in my videos. Oh my god, is this a reflection? Oh my god. What? Oh my god. Oh my god, is this a good cut?